Good morning. Welcome to a little video from the beach. I thought I'd make this video in response to a request I had. Not really a request, just some questions. It wasn't a request to make a video, but it's a common sort of thing in the dreaming, in the particulars of the world and human relationships. So I thought I'd make a video about it, and that's being broken-hearted and having just come out of a relationship, a marriage of 13 years, and gone through and probably still going through the bits and pieces of finding myself again after that, which is an ongoing thing. Like, it's not just in relationship to where I think I was at before I got married, or what happened to me during the marriage and things like that. Any relationship, like I'm in a relationship with the universe, and so the purpose of life, of course, is to find yourself and to work it all out. You know, you have to work out your own salvation. So I thought I'd make this video dealing with the particulars in a specific form, because it's something that many of you, I guess, will be able to relate to, and hopefully the intention is, well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but my hope is to be helpful. So the idea, of course, that a committed relationship falls apart and you find yourself in the emptiness or the void of feeling inside, devoid of that love or that companionship and all of that sort of stuff. That's actually incredibly useful and helpful. And but to understand that, you have to take on board that your life actually has a purpose, because unless your life actually has a purpose, it's just another emotional train wreck, and why me, and what about, and all these questions, and there's no way possible to be able to use the emotionality of that train wreck for the greater good and for your own healing. So taking on board a simple purpose that through embracing some new ideas, you know, like I'm on a journey of the soul. I don't know the meaning of life. My purpose is to discover it. I'm finding myself as I go. All of these sorts of things, these ideas that have a more universal bearing, rather than just focusing on the self-centered kind of ideas of me, why me, poor me, all of this sort of stuff where I feel like a victim. All of a sudden, I begin to step back from what's occurring or seems to be occurring in my life, look at my situation objectively, and I'm able to process it. I'm able to think to myself ideas and thoughts that are helpful in facilitating the letting go of that emotionality that's coming up. Because if I sit in the emotionality, if I just don't have anything to do with it or any way to process it, it just becomes too much, and I begin to dwell on it, and it engulfs me in this dark kind of abyss, which in one thing is helpful and in another thing is not. It's helpful to confront the abyss, to look at that emptiness and everything, but it's not helpful to dwell there. It's like the whole purpose of all of that coming up is to acknowledge it, to look at it and go, okay, let me deal with it, rather than just sit in it moping and all of that sort of stuff. Right? So thinking of yourself as a divine traveler, perhaps, or a divine crusader, someone on a journey of the soul, is going to be helpful. And every time these emotional loads come up, every time you enter into some kind of a relationship and it has a beginning and an ending, and you go through it, apart from the fact that in the middle of the relationship there's going to be particulars that goes on, you know, like it's a constancy of healing. There's a constancy of accepting the other and accepting forgiveness for yourself for judgment of the other, because they're showing you something about yourself. You should be grateful. All of these sorts of things, you know. So apart from all of that, what goes on within the relationship at the ending, when it gets to the end, that's what this video is for. When it gets to the end, the whole relationship initially is structured to try and fill up an emptiness, and in an emptiness, the whole relationship is part of a divine orchestration of coming together, initially under false premises, okay, to go through a particular of healing to make that relationship holy, right, wherein I'm seeing in my chosen partner the perfection of their existence, like their reality, which is their Christ or their Buddhahood, rather than their body, okay? And all of the particulars within the relationship set up the orchestration for that and give me ample rented lips, ample opportunity to choose again what I want out of that relationship again and again and again as I pursue either the venture to make it holy in my own mind or to simply continue to use it to my own advantage for whatever I think I can get out of it. Okay? Now, if I continue to use it for whatever I think I can get out of it, it's going to become quite laboursome, and all those ideas of control and manipulation and everything else are going to come into it because I'm operating within the relationship with an agenda rather than allowing it to be what it is, and together learning to make those decisions that help us to stay in the flow, the two people together, bringing it to a point of holiness. Right? Otherwise, it's like I'm just keep butting heads with this person. We keep having these arguments. And I remember my grandparents on my mother's side, they used to argue like cats and dogs. And what do you do with that? Where do you go with it? Just let it go until you have another argument. It's like, let's see what this is bringing up so we can look at it together and work on it, because that's the purpose of a relationship. Let's work on it with an idea of letting go of the grievance, letting go of the problem, and seeing what it's presenting us as an opportunity to grow or to expand or to open in the journey of the soul together, because that's why we're really together for. Right? But when it ends, quite often there's this emptiness. And just recently, I mean, I would have swore black and blue that when my wife left, I was okay with it. I was in this acceptance that, yep, it had come to its natural conclusion and all of this stuff. But deep within was this sort of self-centered sense of care, as if I was somehow a caretaker or somehow I don't know what it was, but it came up, and it was kind of ugly and kind of thick. And it seemed to come up like about a year or so. What has it been now? Like a year and a half. Maybe 12 or 14 months. Like I just feel like now I'm coming out the other side of it, and I'm responding to questions and things from people that are prompting me to look at my own ideas about it, right? Which is why I'm making this video. You teach what you need to learn, all that sort of stuff. So, helicopter. It brought up a lot of stuff. And despite my own best thinking that I was okay, that everything was good and life was just still in the flow, and like that was the beginning and the ending of one particular chapter and now the next one can unfold, there was still the devastation or the flotsam and jetsam of the true letting go, the true relinquishment of the association with the past. Right, now that's often hard to do. And I had a young fella the other day write to me who was struggling. His girlfriend had left him for somebody else and he was struggling with the thing, and I immediately identified that energy. I immediately identified that whole thing, and I'm like, wow, I need healing. Right, there's something for me. It's like, because when it's healed in your mind, you can't find it. You don't really relate to it anymore. It's like it's not your story. But I related to this story, and it's like, oh, I remember that. And I went right back to when I was like 18 or 19, and the very first love of my life, Melissa Talbot, like left me for somebody else, and the devastation that it wrought. It's like, but at that time in my life, I wasn't capable of having a, hi Melissa, if you happen to be watching this. I wasn't capable of having a giving, loving, open, sort of minded, learning, healing relationship with somebody, the relationship was more centered around fulfilling the inner emptiness that I thought I had in me and finding someone to make me feel whole, which is the false use of a relationship. You have to learn to love yourself first before you can love anyone else. If you're using someone else to fill up that inner emptiness, then it's not going to work out, right? So the journey of life is to find yourself, or to know thyself, be thyself better, and let go of all the emptiness and everything else, in the recognition that I'm one with the universe. I'm in a universal relationship already. Right now, the words and the experience of that are two different things. I'm in a universal relationship. I find myself breathing the air, living on the ground, eating the food. There's animals and clouds and water and beach and everything like that. I'm in a relationship with this entire ecosystem, with this cosmos. Right? I call it a universal relationship for a second. Now, I need to be cool with that. Then whatever comes to me within that is sort of like cream on top, right? But I'm not going to row my own boat. I'm not going to try and decide what it is I think I want, what's in my own best interests, because I don't know, right? The admission is always, I don't know. I need the universe to show me. I need God to show me, and whatever that is, the creator to show me what's in my own best interests, and just to go with the flow. But relationships are these learning tools where hearing that and actually living that come into an alignment, right? My relationships get used, but I have to first be aware that my relationships actually have a purpose, right? I wouldn't be in a relationship with someone else in a kind of a committed way unless there was something I needed to learn from it, unless there was some confrontation I needed to make with my own ideas of lack, emptiness, whatever, my own feelings of insecurity if somebody else is not with me perhaps, or whatever it is, But when the relationship ends, you get to see where you're at clearly with it, because you can't deny the emotionality. And I used to tell my wife, having had several heartbreaking relationships in my life, as most people have, I guess, I used to tell my wife that I never put my heart back together after the last relationship I was in, because I didn't want to have to ever go through that again, right? But and I think she probably found that a bit confronting. It's like I didn't want to have to be able to wear my heart on my sleeve, or to give my heart away in case whoever I gave it to just crushed it under their boot heel when they left, and left me feeling that same way again. But unbeknownst to me, love finds a way in. Love crept back in, repaired my heart, and allowed me to give of myself to that relationship, and to receive for myself from that relationship as this reciprocal, collaborative kind of joining together, where we would have moments of one of us feeling good and the other one feeling shitty, or whatever. But the teaching, learning, and the healing equilibrium all the time is being adjusted until that relationship becomes holy and we're both on the same page. And at that point, the purpose of the relationship is really done. Whether you stay together or don't stay together, it doesn't really matter. But there's a point where you just kind of realize the use-by date of the relationship, and if it comes to an end, then so be it, and you deal with the aftermath of that as it shows up. And for me, it's been like quite surprising. I've had all these emotions that my ego wants to try and label as betrayal and abandonment, all of these sorts of things. I've been abandoned or betrayed because we had an agreement, we had a deal. But I didn't think that at the time. At the time, I was thinking, yep, that's the end of the relationship and that's okay, I'll let it go. And I was trying to be spiritual and positive and everything about it. But of course, that wasn't the truth of the matter. That wasn't really how I felt. It took for that moment of devastation a year and a bit to actually get in, for me to be still and not adjust by finding another relationship, not adjust by going out and trying to fill the void again, but to be still and to allow it to consume me and to help me find an honest place, I guess. You know? And so I've been sitting with that, processing that, and it's been a journey, it's been a ride. I see that there's all these ideas that come up about my place as being a father and a husband and a provider and all of this stuff, and it all seems the rug's been pulled out from under my feet. You know, and it's easy to spiritually tell myself God will take care of everything, it's all good. But is that how I really feel? You know, am I deceiving myself just trying to put on a spiritual face? Yes, I am. I'm deceiving myself. I'm trying to put on a spiritual face. In actual fact, the train wreck is alive and kicking inside. And I often make posts about not to drag your baggage into your next relationship, you know. So it's been a really beautiful and sacred kind of reckoning with honesty and with integrity and all of that sort of heartfelt stuff inside this last year and a half, where I remember making a conscious choice. I mean, I had the opportunity to fill the gap. I had the opportunity there to say yes to somebody else who wanted to embark upon a relationship perhaps, or some kind of a committed friendship. I don't really know how that would have turned out, but I declined it very politely and chose instead to sit in my own space for a moment, whatever that looked like, a year and a half, 10 years, whatever it took. It doesn't really matter to me. So that I could find myself again, find the truth of how I felt about things, let that come up so I could heal myself of it, right, through grace, through prayer of the heart for the healing of the mind that believes it is separate from the whole. Okay? I wouldn't believe that I was separate from the whole if I truly understood the full nature of the universal relationship I'm in. I would accept simply that I'm one with all things. There would be no needs, no wants, no anything, no emptiness, no inner emptiness. But of course, the spiritual journey, the spiritual path is this continual letting go of the false to find the true within oneself, and that looks like whatever it looks like. It takes whatever it takes. And so I'm very grateful for my wife having played her part perfectly for me. And is there more healing to go? I don't know. It doesn't feel like it right now. It feels like a great weight has been shifted, lifted, something that I didn't even really know I was there carrying it around, you know, this weight of doubt and denial of the nature of the relationship I have with the universe. Right? But the whole human experience is denial. What's the meaning of life? I don't know. That's what you're here to find out. Right? You can't find it out by suddenly discovering it. You have to find out what it is by realizing where you're denying it, by trying to fill up some imaginary space in your mind that is actually representing this veil over the truth that keeps you from realizing the nature of that relationship here and now. And I hope that makes sense. So, but the idea that time heals all wounds, well, in a sense, yes, but in another sense, no. If I'm dependent on time to heal all wounds, then I'll be here till the end of time. But if I give myself time to heal, right, if I use time for the purpose that it's intended and allow myself a moment, whatever that looks like, a year, 2 years, 3 months, a week, a day, a second, if I allow myself that time, that moment, to simply be still and not adjust to my inner emptiness, all of that emotionality is going to come up. Everything I need to look at for healing is going to come up, and it'll take whatever it takes, and I can deal with it then. Right? There's no point trying to put on a spiritual face and pretend everything's all good just because I've read it in some spiritual book or listened to some spiritual teacher, and that's how I need to be, so that's the position I'll adopt. That may be the position you need to be in, the position you have to adopt, but it may not be where you're at now. It may not be where you're really at. You know, you can kid yourself about a lot of things, And being the first-hand witness to kidding myself about a lot of things, I know full well firsthand that I'm not going to trust my own thinking in the matter in any particular case. I'm going to simply allow myself the stillness to enter into a moment of just wait and let the Spirit direct. Just wait and let the universe orchestrate everything. Right? The idea that I would want to rush out and get involved again straight away is pretty much a prime indicator that why would I want to do that? Why is everything here not okay as it is? Why do I feel uncomfortable or separate or whatever? What am I trying to adjust to and all of that, you know? And that may not be where you feel and where you're at, but that's just how I look at things. So relationships have to have a purpose. If they don't have the highest purpose possible, then they really don't have any actual purpose. They just have some assumed kind of, like, what is the purpose of my relationship? If it's not to hold myself accountable to the highest point of integrity that I can, that I'm aware of, then I'm falling short of myself. Then I'm letting myself off the hook as far as being true to myself goes. There's no point not running your best race. All right, well, that's it. Stay in the love, stay in the light. I love you. Thanks for being patient with me, and I know I'm a slow learner. I'm in the what do they call that? The remedial class of the universe, when all the slow learners get put in there together and you all get the hat. Oh, I have a new hat today, so pretty dapper. You got to dress your body up sometimes, don't you? Your avatar. Sometimes you look in the mirror and think, all right, change is as good as a holiday, so a new hat it is. Whatever, that thought doesn't mean anything either. All right, truth is true and nothing else matters. I love you. Peace.